Good afternoon, everyone. It is Glam Miss Grace Glamour and Grit. I wanted to get right to the glamour because I saw my makeup in the in my reflection here. Wanted to talk about grief. And I wanted to specifically mold it to those of us who suffer with MS or any chronic illness because I had an aha moment yesterday, to be completely honest. And I sat thinking about it and writing my way through it. As you all know, I believe in writing. I think journaling is great for mental health and to process things. So I just want to kind of look down on my page to make sure that I hit some points. I might read from it and then have some further explanation of it. So, my question to myself yesterday was: have you grieved the life you wish you had before you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis? So, let's be honest. Coming up, as we're raised, as we're living life right out of college, your first job, anything that happens, you know, you've been thinking all along how you want your life to be. But I came to the realization that I had a lot of anger still about how I wanted life to be and how my life is now. And it made me consider the idea that I had not taken a moment, had not gotten the opportunity, was not thinking about it in this way, was not even clear. I did not have the clarity of mind to think of it as I have lost something. When you're diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, oftentimes you think of what is going to happen in the future. Am I going to end up in a wheelchair, walker, or on a cane? Am I going to be able to work? Am I going to be able to do the things I've always dreamed that I was going to do? What medicine am I going to have to take? What will the doctor say next? That is things you're looking at in the future. But the thing that I had to realize is that I never even thought about my life before the multiple sclerosis. And I equate that to this. Hi, Laura. I equate that to this. When 9/11 happened, there was a realization that we're now living life. When we describe life or talk about life, we think of it as before 9/11 or after 9/11. I know I do. And before 9/11, we were able to go walk the person to the gate and watch their airplane take off. Before 9/11, we were able to take whatever it was we needed or wanted in our carry-on bag, and we weren't checked and screened at the scrutiny that we get checked now. And I accept that. I accept that because people are doing their jobs to make sure that we are safe. But life after 9/11, now I have to take off my shoes. I have to take off my belt. I have to walk with a cane, get out of the wheelchair, walk with the cane through the metal detector. And there's always that one sign that reminds me of what happened on 9/11 and why we are having to take these strategies, if you will. But then I thought yesterday, I had a life before I was diagnosed with MS, and now I'm living my life after I've been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I don't think ever took the moment to grieve the life loss, the loss of not living a life that I had dreamed of, because there are some things that I'm not able to do anymore. The life of, oh, what if? Because now my thought is, what if I did this, but what about the MS? Whereas before it was just, what if I go out there and what if I go out there and go skydiving, right? Hey, I love the idea of skydiving. Not quite the idea of the landing, because you go down and I have to make sure that my feet are right. I think that we all need to take a moment to grieve the things that we have lost when it comes to being diagnosed with such a debilitating chronic illness. And when I talk about grieving, I'm talking about those 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And after reading about it, I did not realize that it's supposed to be linear. I thought you can deal with them as you will. But actually, after reading about the psychiatrist who came up with this, she was talking about it being linear. And I had to ask myself whether or not I've gone through all of my stages of grief. And I have not, because I'm still angry. I think I went through the denial and said, well, it can't be that bad. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to end up, in a wheelchair. And you learn eventually that everyone's MS is particular to who they are. Ours do not go across the board, and we all don't have the same symptoms. But when I looked at the stages of grief, I realized that I'm still angry. I mean, it's been a long time, but I'm still angry. I'm angry at the the idea that to be able to live in an apartment by myself is so unheard of, because heaven forbid I might fall. If I fall, I get up. But I kind of gave up that independency because everybody was so worried about whether or not I would fall. And if she falls, if no one's there, what's going to happen? Well, I have a cell phone. There are pieces of furniture to grab onto to get up. But I gave up that independency, and I'm angry about that. I'm so angry that I've kind of fallen into this whole, yeah, what if I do fall? As if it was impossible for me to fall prior to being diagnosed. Things happen. Um, what else have I seen gone away? Driving a car, at least for us, those who are 70s babies, um, it was a rite of passage to get a license. And I had that license, and I would use that license all of the time. I drove myself to work. I drove myself to have fun. I drove myself to different cities to visit people. And right now, I don't even have a car. I would have never thought that at my age, I would not have a car. But I don't. And it's infuriating. It's infuriating to think that I need someone to drive me to wherever it is I want to go, or that I have to ask to borrow someone's vehicle. So currently, I am living with my parents who are older, who are 72 and 78, and they call themselves looking after me when in theory I should be the adult daughter who's here to make sure everything's okay with them. But they're fine. I mean, these people go all over the place. Yet, for some reason or the other, they don't expect that for me. One of them doesn't expect that from me. It's more my mother than my father. My father's like, go live your life, but my mother, and it's probably because moms are so nurturing that they worry about their children all of the time, no matter what age they are. But I ended up living in this house with them. What is it that you have given up on because of your diagnosis? What have you what have you given away? Have you given away your independency? Have you given away the right to do certain things? What in life prior to your diagnosis do you realize you don't even think about after being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis? And does it make you angry? And if it does, that's okay. I think it's more about finding out a way to get through those stages of grieving. And let me say it again, they are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, I said that I believe that I'm in the anger state and our stage. And I don't know which stage you might be in, but let me make sure that we're very clear that MS comes with a certain level of depression. And I don't want you to take for granted that that level of depression that comes with the MS is equivalent or equal to you going through the fourth stage in grieving. Because you have to realize you have to be able to know whether or not you are depressed because of the loss of life prior to MS, or are you depressed because the symptom of MS, which is depression, is something that's bringing you down? They're two totally different things, and it's okay. It is okay to be depressed about the life that you grieve. We have to realize that there is a grieving process that comes when you're diagnosed with any chronic illness. I have multiple sclerosis, so I come from this point of view. When you are diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and all of a sudden you have to take these shots where the needles are this long or take shots every other day, you're grieving the loss of that freedom to be without a shot. Take the time to take that in. When you are thinking about what life used to be like when you were a runner, and now all of a sudden you have drop foot and you cannot run as well. And depending how your drop foot is, you might not be able to run at all. Take that in. And it's okay to be in denial about that. I was in denial about that. I came up with some of the strangest ways to run. But it's okay to be in denial about that, to be angry about that, and go through the stages: bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But until you get to the point of acceptance, we've yet to get all the way through those stages. And will there ever be a time where we accept the fact that we have multiple sclerosis? I believe there is a time when we will accept it, because otherwise we're just continuing to fight. And that's good. In most ways, it's good to have some fight left in you. You know, I've made a list now, and I've said I want my own apartment, I want my own car, and I want my own city, to be totally honest. I want to be in another city. And all of those things can happen for me. But the idea that we kind of say it can't happen anymore because we have MS, we're not thinking about this as specifically as we should. It's not that you can't. It's just that life isn't going to be exactly what you thought it would be prior to you being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So now you have to change it up. You know, I'm sure when an author sits down to write a book, and they write the book, but they go through editing and proofreading and change a scene, and it happens when they're writing a book. Why can't it happen with us? It is okay to grieve the life that you thought you would have had prior to being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. What is not okay is to give up on the life you have after being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I want to stand in place for you to let you know that that is basically where I know that I have gone to that place, like, oh, I can't do this as well as I did back then. There are lots of things that people can't do as well as they did when they were younger, you know, and it's okay. But I need you to breathe it in and take the opportunity to grieve the life that you had to give up, the life that you thought would be prior to being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I think this is something that really people need to think about this a little more, because I don't think we'll ever get to acceptance, or we'll ever have a life that we really want to live, if we don't go ahead and identify these stages of grief. Because there was a life that I had to say goodbye to. There's a life that we had to say goodbye to. And we didn't expect it. We didn't ask for it, nor do we want it even sitting right here today. But it's still a life that is not the same. So I just want you to breathe and take that in and realize it's okay to grieve the life that you had prior to being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis?